My name's Marilyn Spatola, and I own Liquid Sun Rayz. It's a business I started about 20 years ago. I am by first profession a nurse. Not nursed for quite a while. I retired several years ago, and that's what led me into the salon industry, actually, just because I was burnout. I was very burnout as a floor nurse and worked on a very high acuity level floor. So I just wanted to get out, just didn't want to do it anymore. So I got into the salon industry for fun. And that's what kind of led me to spray tanning. I got involved in that when it was pretty much brand new to the industry for not bodybuilding, but just for people, everyday people. And it was very intriguing to me because I've always been so fair and I could never get in the sun. And I thought, well, this would be kind of cool. So that's how it all started. And then a kid that went to grade school, high school with our sons actually competes and had a gym. So that's how I got introduced to the competition genre and didn't really know anything about it, but they asked if I could spray what they use. And I said, if it's liquid, I can spray it. And so I really have kind of learned all the way through. Back then, nobody knew that much about spray tanning. So we were all kind of self-taught. Now there's a lot more resources out there for people to learn how to do it properly. So kind of stumbled through the way and made all the mistakes and kind of learned along the way. And that's my prime business now. I mean, I do have an everyday tanning line and we do sell to some salons and everyday people, but this niche was really pretty much where I went because it just sort of started taking off and I just kind of rolled with it. So almost 20 years later, here we are.
Yeah. Where did you get that entrepreneurial spirit, do you feel like? And was there any challenges for you going from an employee to, going from being an employee to being, the boss, the leader, at the beginning, you're not really a CEO yet. And I guess you are, but you're more of just like this single owner entrepreneur. Like, how did that transition work for you?
It was sort of gradual because I never really considered myself an entrepreneur, to be honest. I mean, when I got into the salon industry, I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to work. So thank you to my husband for that. But I was able to kind of just skip along and do some things that I enjoyed and still have an income. But when I started in the salon industry, I actually went to school to learn how to do nails because I just enjoyed it. So I always did booth rentals. So I kind of always was my own boss. I just rented space in a salon. But I never really looked at myself as a boss of a big company. It was really gradual. When I started with the spray tanning and got introduced to the competition part of it, I never even expected this business to go here. At the time, all I really wanted was to find a product that I liked and that would work well for the competitors. And there were already a couple of companies out there. They're still around today. Nothing against anybody. It was more ignorance on my part then. I just didn't like it. I'm like, there's got to be something better than this. And I listened to what competitors said they did not like about the tanning process. So it was really just gradual as the business started taking off and I got busier and, started selling more. Then I developed products. And I didn't have my own product in the beginning. I just found a product I liked. Then I decided to formulate my own. And there's a story behind that, but there's not enough time for that. It was just the result of a brief partnership that went bad. And probably today I should send that person a thank you note because it's kind of led me to where I am today. So that's sort of in a nutshell how it happened. So I guess I've just always wanted to do really well at what I did. I wanted to focus on customer service. I wanted to bring the competitors a good experience and a good service. And we've always focused on that. I know I've got a good product. I've always, with my nursing background, it's always been important to me to have a product that is healthy for the skin and that there weren't a lot of adverse ingredients that would be drying, which are in some of the products out there. I just didn't want that. So it took me about 2.5 years to get this formula to where I wanted it, but it hasn't changed. Once I got it almost 20 years ago, it stayed the same.
So formulating your own product, that seems like it would be such like a learning process as far as like knowing what the ingredients actually are. I'm sure there's the names of them are probably, pretty long. But when it comes to like you said, being a nurse and having that health background, whenever you started to want to like develop your own thing and you started seeing, oh, this ingredient might not be the best for this reason. This ingredient may not be the best for that reason. How did you, how did you kind of like keep the integrity of what you wanted to do from a health perspective, as well as create this product that still does, like, it still is a good product, if that makes sense? Because I feel like sometimes a lot of people will sacrifice one for the other.
That's very true. And I think in our industry that is sacrificed a little bit just because, quite honestly, the competitors don't care. I mean, most of them don't care. They just want to get their tan but I care. So I wanted to create a product that would do what they wanted, but would still be the healthiest products or ingredients that I could find. And I was not that knowledgeable about that at the time. Yes, I have a nursing background, but I'm not a chemist. And I'm still not a chemist, but I've always researched and tried to learn about everything that's in a product that I own that I'm going to use. So that's been a transitional thing across the years as well. I mean, I went through maybe 5 or 6 different chemists that were in the sunless tanning industry at the time, and found one that was willing to work with me and help me develop this. And really through that person is how I learned a lot about the ingredients, because there's a lot of things in products, especially for skin, that are more beneficial. There's a lot. I mean, we could talk about that all day, but it's been a learning process. Definitely been a learning process. Of course, with sunless tanning products, the main ingredient is DHA, dihydroxyacetone, and that's what really makes the magic work for an everyday tan. For competition tanning, that's not enough. So you have to have high amounts of bronzers in the product. So it's more cosmetic. They're not going to wash that off. They're going to keep it on. Now, for an everyday tan, they're going to keep it on 6 to 8 hours, sometimes less with some of the new types of products they have in the industry today. And they can rinse it off sooner, and then their skin will continue to develop a tan for 24 hours. But what we need for competitors is an immediate color. And it usually starts the day before. It'll darken. Then we can do more in the morning. We usually do a couple coats, and then we get where they need to be. But I'm a firm believer that that's sitting on their skin. And I'm also a firm believer that people should be able to make a choice as to what tan they use, what company they use, because it's not like you're going to a trainer. You're putting something on your body. So I think a lot of people are becoming a little bit more aware of what's in ingredients, when people have allergies. So you have to think about all those things.
And because you have this knowledge now of like skin products and things that are good for the skin, maybe some things that don't do the things that maybe they're marketed to do, is it hard for you to kind of like walk down the aisles of some places, not to call it any specific brands or products, but is it hard sometimes for you to walk down the aisle and be like, I can't believe that it's being marketed like that?
I wouldn't say that I walk down the aisles and think that, but within my industry, I can give you an example of sunless tanning products, which is what I mainly deal with. Obviously, when somebody says, "Oh, we use all organic," our products are all organic. No, they're not. They're because water is the number one ingredient in all sunless tanning products, and water isn't organic. But it is a marketing shtick. It really is people say, "Oh, we have all natural ingredients." They may have ingredients that are organic, and they may have a lot of natural ingredients, but even plant-based ingredients are considered chemicals, if per se, once they're mixed into solutions or into different products. And I'm not a chemist, so I'm not going to go into that in a lot of depth because I don't have all that knowledge. But I do know that it drives me nuts when people say, "Oh, we use all organic." I'm like, and really, what does that mean? Yeah. It doesn't really mean anything anyway, but no, you're not, because aqua is the number one first ingredient, because it's the largest amount. I mean, I think people need to know how to read labels. And I do think that people need to know what might be, for instance, I have no isopropyl alcohol. I have no isopropyl alcohol, and we have no acetone in our products. And there are some out there that have those things. They're not going to kill anybody, but they're extremely drying to the skin, and they can be an irritant. So for me, for competitors especially, they're keeping this on their skin for 2 days, basically. until the show. And we have had people that have said they've had reactions, and it can happen with my products too. You're never going to know what ingredient in a product causes a reaction unless the person goes to a dermatologist and takes that product with them and they test for every single ingredient in that product. They have to do a patch test because people say, oh, well, I'm allergic to this, or I think I'm allergic to that. Well, has a doctor told you that? Or are you just assuming? But there are certain ingredients that you can look at and know that there's going to be a good chance that they might be a skin irritant to people. So I just prefer to leave those out and try to have the most skin beneficial ingredients in our products as we can. And they're not always going to work for everybody, but we just do the best we can.
And especially early on, was there a lot of fear involved in putting out a product because of those things that you're talking about? Like, yes, you can research and you can have maybe like tests done, but like at the end of the day, you're still putting it out on the market and not hoping or praying per se, because like I said, you have information, but you really are hoping that like nothing goes wrong with this product, that you may not have seen coming.
Well, I think that's why you get a good chemist and you get somebody who is a cosmetic chemist and that's what I did. I mean, you need someone that has more knowledge than you, because I wouldn't say that I ever had a fear of that, but that also might have partly been because at the time I didn't have as much knowledge as I do now either. But sunless tanning products are really pretty safe across the board. I think where there was a European study done several years ago, I don't know if you ever heard about it, but they were just like anything else. The news gets a hold of something and all of a sudden, oh, be careful with spray tanning. It may, they pumped astronomical amounts of it into the lab rats in this little cubicle and they developed symptoms, but they all disappeared within 3 hours. But I will say that I do try to take precautions because sunless tanning products have been deemed safe for topical use since the 1970s or before, actually. But now you're putting it in a spray modality and now you can inhale it. So that's the whole difference that I try to be careful of. And is there anything in it? I mean, do we all wear masks? No, we don't. But I always have those available. People can choose if they want. I think we're past that 10-year mark where they usually say it takes about 10 years for research to be conclusive enough before you find out, oh, this causes this or this causes that. But it may take a period of time before they see that. And it's never really been conclusive. The FDA has always approved sunless tanning products for topical use, like tanning lotions or creams, or back in the day, the old QT, Coppertone was one of the first to come out with it. But they've never really 100% approved it for spray use because now it's atomized. Now it's in the air, it's airborne, which is another reason why I don't like to have acetone and alcohol in my products, because those are fumey and I don't know how safe that is for people to be breathing in. More so my techs than the consumer. They're with us for a very short period of time and then they're gone. But my staff, sometimes it's 6-7 hours just nonstop spraying. So I want them to be safe. So that's another consideration for me as far as ingredients in the products.
So just in general, like within a general business, not necessarily just tanning or just whatever, but what do you do to help yourself from a legal standpoint feel safe? Like, what do you have in place, whether it be for products, whether it be for, the consumers, things like that?
Well, we have to have, for the consumers, when we spray, you have to have nose filters, eye covers, they call them little winkies, little eye covers, or privacy covers to cover the mucous membranes, lip balm. People don't have to use them. That's their choice. But the FDA requires that we make those things available if people want to use them. Competitors usually don't. I mean, they just don't care. I wish they did care a little bit more, but they're like, it's not a clean sport by any means. And then of course I have product liability. I mean, I have liability insurance, which we have to have, and then product liability. So if anybody were to ever come back and make a claim that the product did something to them, I've never had that happen. Sometimes that's kind of a shotgun approach if it does happen, because especially with competitions, they're all over the place. They've got all kinds of stuff they're exposed to. So it'd be kind of hard to pinpoint one particular thing, but I don't really worry about it. I mean, I've got the proper insurance. I know my products are made safely. So never really had a big concern about that, but I'm protected.
And what do you think sets your business apart, from other tanning and not just tanning, but other businesses within like the bodybuilding industry? What do you feel like that you or your business does well?
Well, I think I like to say that the number one thing that sets us apart is our color. I think we have a very distinct color and one that's very easily recognized on stage. Next to that, very close next to that, would be our customer service, and we also, I don't sell my product in bulk, meaning the larger gallon sizes that people can buy and just set up shop, unless they train with us or I vet them somehow. That didn't used to be a problem. Now spray tanning is a very saturated industry. And in the competition end of it, they kind of see what we do as a cash cow, which it really isn't because we have a lot of overhead. But people see the long lines, at these shows and think, oh, I want to do that. And sometimes people get that deer in a headlight look when we say, well, come on and train with us. And after they see it's not brain surgery work, but it's grunt work. It's hard work. I mean, we're with these people the whole show. We're working long hours, but my staff is very well trained. And anyone who becomes a service provider, which they're independent businesses, but service provider means they've gone through the hoops they need to with me or my top staff to make sure that they know how to handle the product properly. You know how to spray somebody, what is expected for competitors, how to fix things when they happen, because this is not a spray them like you're going to go to a prom. Okay, I'm going to spray you tomorrow. You're going to rinse and then you put your dress on and you go. This is going to be on their skin for 24 hours. You're going to be backstage with them if they mess things up, and they do. People go to the bathroom, people sweat, they get water spilled on them, they maybe put handprints, things happen, and we have to know how to fix all those things. And sometimes you're learning things on the fly. Not everybody is the same. You might have one way to fix the most problems, but you might have 3 or 4 different ways to fix one problem, if that makes sense, because the same way isn't always going to work for everybody. So sometimes we have to figure things out on the spot. We'll use our go-to fix it method, and that usually works, but sometimes it doesn't. Then you got to figure it out. So for me, that's one of the things that sets us apart, because most people that use our product and use our name or say, yes, I'm so-and-so tanning, but I use Liquid Sun Rayz. We have a consistency that we have tried to build, where we have our process of when a competitor comes in, what we do, how we get them through the system. And we try to make everybody sort of stay consistent with that. I mean, everybody's going to have their own way of doing things, and that's fine with me. I'm not out to recreate the wheel, but I do want a certain level of consistency so that I'm comfortable. If somebody's doing a show in Texas, I can say, oh yeah, you can use our service providers there. They're great. I can only say that if I know that. And I think that's where we're a little bit different, because if you can just go online and buy a product, that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to use it. So maybe I'm a little too controlling, but I feel like that's been good for us.
Yeah, kind of having, like you said, control of that. And because that you're controlling the quality and the image and the branding of your own business. It's funny you mentioned the people think, oh, this is a cash cow thing. My dad has owned a business for over 40 years. And it's so funny. Like people think, oh my gosh, I'm getting charged this much for this. And you're thinking as the consumer, like, oh, they must be just raking in the dough. And then on the other end, it's like, oh man, I wish, we have a 10% margin on some of this stuff or 20% margin on some of this stuff. And it's like the reality of a business and seeing the true numbers behind it all. It makes you like appreciate, especially a small business who doesn't have like all of the capital and all of the resources and things like that. Was that something that, getting into business yourself that you had to kind of get used to?
For me, not really, because of the way what I explained to you before, I would never really expected this to turn into the business that it did. This business for me has supported itself from day one. I have never taken a loan. Especially at my age now, I wouldn't do that, but business has always supported itself. That doesn't mean I've always put a lot in my pocket. Obviously, you make money and you improve things and you keep putting money back in, and I'm still doing that, but obviously I'm better off than I was 20 years ago. But in the beginning, my main concern was just being able to give a good service to the competitors. I've done this because I like it. I love it. I'm not getting younger, but I still enjoy it. I don't spray much anymore, but I have a great staff. I still enjoy going to the shows, interacting with the athletes. So, but you're right. The whole cash cow thing, people don't realize that you may charge a certain amount for a tan, and it may only take us 5 minutes to apply that tan, but we're still going to be with that athlete for 2 days. So it's not just a tan, it's a service, it's an experience. I mean, we're protecting their feet and their hands so they don't get tan all over. And we try to keep them as, clean and as intact as we can, but it's a service. And I think what you said about your father, that's very true, because people just see what they see and they don't think about all the other things that go with it. I mean, we pay for the promoters, we have hotels, we have travel, you have consumable, you have, your product, your supplies, you got to pay people. They're not going to do it for free. I have a very dedicated staff and they do it because they love it. And with this industry, you have to really enjoy it because it's messy. It's a messy job and you've got your hands dirty and you've got your hands all over people. So it's not for everybody, but they're going to make a living. They're not going to do it for free. So, and I've always believed too, if you want good people, take care of them. If you take care of the people that take care of you.
Yeah.
And I've not had a huge turnover on my staff. I mean, you have a turnover, people's lives change, they get married or they retire, they move, but we've managed to stay pretty steady with our staff.
Yeah. And that's huge, especially nowadays when everybody's looking for at least one person, it's
right.
It's the employee shortage. I don't even like using that word because there's not less people, but just the environment that we're in right now, it's challenging for all businesses.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of people don't want to work, but so I think with our industry, a lot of the people that work with me are already involved in the industry, obviously, and that's great. But I do have some people that just say, hey, I think I might like to do that, and it's always weekend work. So there's a specific kind of person that we have to look for because it's always weekends. I mean, we don't rarely do anything during the week. It's usually Friday or Thursday through Sunday. We're usually traveling on Thursday and coming back on Sunday. So it's a big commitment, but I have a lot of people that just love it. So lucky me.
And you mentioned that training and that kind of like rigorous training and control that you want to have over the image, and that definitely makes sense. But is franchising anything that you've ever thought about or see in the future?
When I first started out with this, I did licensing agreements, and which is not, I was told by my attorney at the time, you don't want to do a franchise. It's just very complicated. And for what I do, it would be, because it's not like, a Burger King or a McDonald's or a Starbucks. I mean, this is I always say it's a big little industry. There's not probably enough for there to be franchises with this. When I did the licensing agreements, I would hold a state. Someone could be LSR of Indiana or of, New Jersey, but it really wasn't financially beneficial to me to continue doing that because there's just not enough. There's not enough in any given state for one person, if that makes sense. So I had to kind of open things up, and that's when I just went to the training. I mean, if you train with us, then that gives you rights to purchase the product, and then they can do what they want, but at least I know that they're proficient with how to do a spray tan and that they're understanding of our industry. Now, it doesn't always work. I mean, every now and then you think somebody's going to be great and then they aren't, but things have a way of taking care of themselves.
Yeah,
they definitely do. So just gone to the training.
And so, working with bodybuilders and also having experience working with the non-bodybuilder population, how is bodybuilding, and you mentioned some of the things, but like, how is bodybuilding truly unique in terms of like how you have to service that niche?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious is that it's event specific. You're going to be there with them or somewhere close by to the event, because a lot of people ask us to come, but it's I don't really quite know how to really answer that, but bodybuilders just need a lot more. You're dealing with a lot more skin issues because you're dealing with their diets, and the supplements and things that they take can affect how color takes on their skin. if you're spraying somebody for a prom and maybe the color doesn't look great, maybe they wore deodorant or something they shouldn't have done, or maybe the color isn't looking great, but once they rinse it off, it's going to be fine. But with bodybuilders, they aren't going to rinse it off. So you have to make sure it looks fine while it's on their skin. That's probably the biggest difference. And just the things that we have to deal with, the issues that we have to deal with them. Scheduling, you have to know when their check-in is. You have to just go through a lot of hoops, and I think you have to manage your time differently.
In working with a bodybuilder too, whether that's an amateur or pro, like their tan is such a huge part of, what they look like, right? So they take it very seriously. They have so much on their plate. They're in prep, and so they're in this state of mind. Has there ever been, or I'm sure there has been, but like challenges just almost working with a person in that state, if that makes sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And I think what I've found over the years, not just with bodybuilders, but with just people in general, they don't tend to read, especially when you have instructions or skin prep instructions, and I think with bodybuilders, that is maybe even a little bit more challenging because they have more brain fog coming, closer to their event. And sometimes you just have to coddle a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more specific, but you also just have to be patient, because it's their event. I'm there for them. And yes, sometimes I may internally be a little annoyed, but you just have to put that aside and just roll with it. Sometimes you have to repeat yourself. Sometimes you have to hand hold a little bit more, but that's all part of it. And if you can't do that, then this isn't the right niche for you to be in, because you have to kind of know that coming in that, we talk about it all the time with my staff. Oh, here, it's 2 weeks out. Here we go. We start getting the calls, now where am I supposed to be? So we're always like information central. I try to just make sure that I know even things that they should be asking the promoter. Sometimes they'll ask us. And so we just try to be able to have those answers for them. If we don't, then we'll say, well, you need to ask the promoter,
Yeah.
maybe you need to email them.
And information is it's so weird because these days it's everywhere, and it's like almost, it would seem super easy to put a piece of information, whether that's through email, through your social media, through a physical copy of something, a phone call. Like you can literally communicate with people and pass information along in so many different ways.
All those things. We do all those things, and we still will get questions. I mean, we do reminder emails. We have skin prep instructions. We remind them, please click, make sure you follow your skin prep instructions, make sure you do this, this, and that. So it's definitely a lot of reiterating. And then some people just are on overload, or I think with websites, people don't scroll.
Right.
They look at that first part of information that's in front of them, but there's more information, but they have to scroll. A lot of people just don't do that. But like I said, that's all part of it. And you just have to manage it and deal with it and be patient.
Yeah. And we're kind of dealing with that too within our business, and understanding like how to catch people's attention. Really, that's what you're trying to do. You have this message, like how do you come across that, hey, I know we've sent stuff before, but this is actually like this, read this, like forget anything else you're doing and read this. People truly just like, they're in their own world, and it's so hard to like penetrate that with what you're trying to tell them.
Yeah, it is. But like I said, it's just, we're used to it. In the whole time I've been doing this, it really hasn't changed much as far as that goes. I mean, we just kind of know how it's going to be. And every year we say, well, why don't we do this? And we'll put that up and we'll try this. But at the same time, you have to make it simple. And I can tend to be an over explainer. That's part of my personality. So the less you say sometimes, the better. You just have to find ways to make it to the point. And because I think if you try to over explain, people do lose interest and they don't read. They just don't want to read through everything. Same way with contracts.
Yeah, for sure.
We've had that with some of our contracts. Well, oh, we have to do this. I'm like, well, did you read the contract? Because you signed it. But, we're all guilty of that. I don't always read the fine print either. I don't think anybody would be honest if they said they always read all the fine print. Maybe an attorney does. But,
and that's why you have them, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's why you have them, and that's why they make the contracts. But I do read them.
So what was it like for you starting to see your business like grow a little bit and become like a part of the sport of bodybuilding? What was that like for you?
It was exciting. I mean, it was exciting for me because it was something that I really liked doing. And the more I learned about it, the more I liked. I liked the people. I'm a people person. So, and that was part of me being a nurse. I mean, you have to be a people person. But I think in the beginning, I was like, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe, the kind of the world was my oyster. I mean, now it's saturated. I've always said to people, it was a lot easier for me to get where I am than it is to stay there, because now you have to work harder always. And I think back to what I wanted, what my goal was. It's like, I want to be the best at what I do. I wasn't trying to push anybody else out. I just wanted to be the best at what I did. I wanted to have things that other people, I wanted to do things different and make it special. But I've always known in the back of my mind that as I gained success and started to grow, there's probably people that have that same aspiration that I did. So you have to stay on your game. You have to stay at the top of your game. So you always have to make sure that you're going above and beyond. But I think one of the biggest things that we are known for that people will talk about is our customer service and our process. Our process is quick. We get people in and out quick. I will say, I don't make a lot of claims, but I will say that I believe we have the fastest drying competition color on the market. It dries very fast. And sometimes people say, oh my gosh, I was there for an hour and I still wasn't dry. And I'm like, nope, we get them in and out. I mean, we can get people in and out, getting them in, prepped, sprayed, dried, powdered, and out maybe 15, 20 minutes. There's sometimes it may be a little longer. We'll always bottleneck a little bit during athlete check-in. That's kind of just normal. But we are known for getting people in and out, for not running behind. I'm not going to say we never do because that happens, but we're usually pretty quick at getting people in, getting them out, and then getting them through the next morning so they're ready for pre-judging. We're fast. And I think people like that. And I've told people, you're spraying something cold and wet on someone who's carb depleted, lean, and they're naked. So they really don't want to be standing in there any longer than they need to. They want to get in and get out, and they appreciate that. They can get out. They can go see their coach or go have their meal or just go put their feet up or go do whatever they have to do rather than spending an hour in the tanning room. They don't need to be doing that.
And is there a part of the country, you mentioned like the speed of and how like fast it dries and things like that. Is there a part of the country or is there a time of year that is better for that to, for the drying process?
I would say yes. We have found ways around that, but you're usually fortunately in hotel rooms. We like to get the room as cold as we can. And sometimes the athletes complain about it, and I get it. It's cold, but they're in and out a lot quicker. So the colder it is, people think, oh, warm air will dry it. No, that really actually keeps tanning products tacky a little bit longer. And it may take a little bit longer in Florida or places where it's really humid. Now you go out west, like to Vegas, it may be hot, but it's dry. They fly in and out. So yes, temperature can affect it, but not a whole lot for us. I mean, I can pretty much say that we're pretty consistent with how long our process takes. If we're in a space where the air conditioning breaks, that has happened a few times, and we keep it cold because once you get all those bodies in that room and they're lean and their metabolisms are at the speed of light, it gets hot. So we try to keep it as cool as we can. We've had a couple times over the years where the air conditioning wasn't working or it just got too hot in the room and it may take a little longer, but our product dries pretty quick.
And what does it feel like because you've mentioned like it feels good to kind of be where you are and, like it's hard to stay there and things like that. But what does it feel like to you? Is there any pressure or anything involved when it comes to like, man, we have to innovate or we have to do something to stay here? Or, and along with that, like, does it ever feel like the things that you do, the ways that you do things in a better way, you almost are doing some of the work for your competitors, if that makes sense?
I think just staying on top of our game, I wouldn't say that it's harder. I mean, I guess if you compare the word hard and challenging, you know, but yeah, it's a little bit more challenging to stay where, I mean, there's competition out there. Everybody wants what you have. So you have to try to do things to stay where you are and to like give the promoters a reason to want to keep using you. And I think we've had pretty good success with that. But, you know, it's always a money thing too. It definitely is. I mean, you know, prices are getting higher. People want more because they are having to pay more. So, you know, you've got that trickle down effect. And I think since COVID, and I don't like to throw that around, but I mean, it definitely has affected things. I think we're still kind of getting back on track after that, except I will say the competitors, they were ready to get right back in. There was never a concern about, do I have to wear a mask in the room? That's all I ever heard. Do you have to have? I said, it's up to you. You know, I'm going to leave that up to you. I mean, out here, yes. Back then, you still had to wear it in the public areas, but once they got in the tanning room, that was up to them. But, you know, I just think you have to stay on top of your game. And sometimes you're going to succeed, and in other ways, maybe somebody's going to get the better of you. And that's just the way it is. You know, some people have their preference, and they may like this company or they use that company. But we have a lot of people that use our company, and we try to treat the athletes well, you know, and we do sponsor a lot of athletes, and we try to maintain great relationships with them and get them taken care of wherever they are. Even if we might not be there, we try to make arrangements. So we really, really just strive to have good relationships with people and give them the best service.
As a business owner, right? You have a lot of whatever the word you want to use, whether it's stress, whether it's responsibility, you just have a lot to kind of think about, right? How do you manage and how do you balance the work and the life aspects?
Well, my husband probably liked me to be able to answer that too. But I mean, I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe what I do because I still enjoy it. And people ask me all the time, or my husband does, when are you going to, you know, you're getting older and we're getting older. I said, I know, but what else would I do? I mean, I like to stay busy. I like to do this. But to answer your question with that, though, good people, you need good people around you. I have some great people, assistants. I have someone that manages my social media because I don't know how to do that. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm just not that good at that. But I think you need to put people in areas where they are stronger than you are. And in the areas where you're weaker, you need strong people that you can depend on. And that has been a balance for me. I've made a couple bad choices with that over the years, but right now I think we've got a fine oiled machine. I mean, I have somebody that handles all my meeting room bookings and hotel bookings and staffing, and we always keep in touch and communicate. I have someone that handles the website and my international sales. Somebody that works in the warehouse, they pack for me. So I've been able to take myself out of wearing all those hats, which for many years I did because I'm kind of a control freak. And it's like, no, I want it done this way. So I've had to kind of learn to relax, step back, trust that people are going to get the job done, even if they might not do it exactly how I do it. As long as the end result is the same, then that's okay. So I think that's where my balance has come. Just trying to put people in a role to take some of that off of me. And, you know, you just have to make sure you're picking good people.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.
And do you have that ability as a business owner to let people do what they do well? I think that kind of has big impacts on whether you are able to grow, whether you are able to be successful, and whether you're able to have that longevity, because you can't do it all forever. You know, you're going to eventually burn out and you're not going to be able to do anything well. You're going to be doing a lot of things, but not well.
Right. And you're right. You're exactly right about that. And I've had to learn that because it's like strengths and weaknesses, you know, and a really good friend of mine that's in this industry as well has told me that. She said, maybe you don't like this about a person, but what do you like about them? You know, where's their strength? Where's their weakness? Learn to utilize their strengths and maybe if the weaknesses aren't that bad, you can deal with it. You get somebody else to pick up the slack there. And I have started doing that more, and she's right. It works. It does work. But, you have to learn to trust, but you still have to keep your fingers on the radial artery. That's for sure. And I did learn that because I did try to step back several years ago and bring someone in, and it just didn't go well. And I blame myself for that because I thought I could step back. I just shouldn't have stepped back that far, because you still have to be aware of what everybody's doing, how it's impacting every other aspect of your business. Definitely.
And something that my dad says all the time is don't give somebody the responsibility without giving them the authority to make the decision. Was that a challenge for you initially when you started hiring more people?
It was a challenge for me because I had to learn how to say, okay, you're going to do this, and step back and let them do it, and not keep micromanaging. Yes, I will admit I've always been a micromanager, and I've had to learn to step back and not do that. And it's been really great lately because I've really trusted that process, and it's doing well. But I have people now that will do their job, but they will still communicate with me, or they will say, hey, I just want to run this by you. I just want to keep you in the loop. And that's really all I need. I know it's getting taken care of. And if there's a problem, then they let me know, and then we talk through it and we get a handle.
And how do you keep, just from like a general business perspective, do you do anything to kind of keep your eyes open to what's going on just with general like trends, with general technology, or general like ideas going around? Do you listen to any podcasts, read any books, do anything like that?
I don't do a whole lot of podcasts, and I apologize for that because I probably should, but I don't. My girl that manages my social media, and she manages our athletes. It's like, do you ever sleep? I mean, she's like on this stuff 24/7. I don't know how people can do that. I mean, I try to, yes. Now, as far as keeping up with new trends and new things, I'm the queen of that. I probably have more equipment and more, oh, that's new, I want to get that and try it. So yes, I'm always looking for ways to make our job easier and more efficient, even if it's just with how we travel with the equipment and things like that. That may sound silly, but if I can consolidate things and make it easier for people to work smarter and not harder, which is a saying that people use a lot, but there's a lot of truth in that, just so that you streamline things. So yes, I maybe do that a little bit too much. And the condition of my warehouse would probably be apparent to that because it's so full, but I have all kinds of different spray equipment on it, but there's always something new coming out. And if I have something that's older and it works, then I'm not going to get rid of it. But if I can get something that's going to do the job more efficiently and quicker, and the equipment's going to be easier to maintain in the long run, because back in the day, the guns and the things that we use take a lot of maintenance, and you have to maintain your equipment. And I still have a lot of that equipment and we'll still use it. But some of the newer stuff coming out is just so much easier to maintain, and it's not as problematic. So yes.
It seems like there would be a lot of tools, right? Is there a lot of tools?
I have about 4 different kinds, but I pack what they're going to use. So I don't know if you're asking me, do I have to get something different for everyone's preference? No, I don't do that. I mean, they've all learned to spray on what I bring, and some of them bring their own, and that's fine. If they want to do that and they're more comfortable with that, that's fine. I see that more with people that we utilize that are already in the spray tanning industry, and maybe they have a salon and they're in the industry already. But I would say that the majority of my techs are people that were competitors, or they're just gym owners, or they're bodybuilding fans, and they've just started working with us. So I've just kind of trained them on what we have, and they're fine with it. Gotcha. But if somebody says, well, I really have a machine that I like, I don't care, as long as you can keep the pace, because we all have a pace and we just have to be efficient. But most of the time they use just what I have.
Yeah. And, I really personally just got more deeply into the sport of bodybuilding pretty much like this time last year. And I've been talking to more people within the sport, athletes, promoters, judges, things like that. And I've gotten kind of to know the sport on a pretty good level. And talking to those people, they've mentioned how the sport has really grown over the last 5-10 years, and social media playing a big role in that, new categories playing a big role in that. How have you guys adjusted to the increase in volume of athletes?
I don't really, it's kind of been an up and down thing. I think, again, since COVID, the numbers have gone down a little bit. Now they're coming up. And a lot of that depends on the show. It depends on the promoter, how well they promote. Some do a better job of that than others. And sometimes it's geographical and logistical, but I've never had a problem keeping up with that. If, it used to be that you could kind of predict your shows and how the numbers were going to come in. That's been a little challenging the last few years. And it seems like most of those numbers we know now are going to come in those last few weeks leading up to a show. And then you always have to figure that you're going to have walk-ins, people that won't book their appointment. They just walk in and say, hey, I need a tan. So I just get more people, and we have at the beginning of the year, I put my schedule out to all my staff and I say, let me know what dates you're available for. And I have some that are like, anything you need, I'm available. Other people have regular jobs. Like we have one girl that's a police officer, so she has to work around her schedule. We have people that have day jobs and they work around their schedule. But then we have people that they're maybe stay-at-home moms, or they don't have they're very flexible. But we just add more people. I always say you can never have too many people trained. A lot of our people know that I may need you, I may not, but they know how to do this. They can work with us if I need them. And I just add more people. I think the biggest show I ever did was years ago. I sponsored Masters Nationals and North Americans, Gary Udit's show. He has his own tanning company now, but for a few years we did that, and that was a massive amount of people. And I flew people in, or some of our service providers from all over. So, and that's the great thing with our company too. We've developed such a good network that I have a great team in Texas. I have a good team in Arizona. I have a couple girls in Southern California. I have people everywhere. So if I need to bring people in for a specific event, I usually am very easily able to do that.
Yeah. And so for you guys, like, how do you run things on like a seasonal basis to where it's like, okay, these things are set for this season, or do you make a lot of adjustments within a single season? How does that work for you all?
Well, most of the shows that are listed on my schedule are shows that we officially sponsor. So I generally know those dates. A lot of the promoters that I work with pretty much have the same time frame every year, but some switch around. But we usually know that going into December. We usually pretty much know what shows we're going to have, what shows that we are officially sponsoring. There's some we don't officially sponsor, but we still send someone to, mainly because we have sponsored athletes that may be doing those shows. So I just have an obligation that I want to make sure they're taken care of. But we pretty much know those schedules, and I put them up, and there might be some changes throughout the year, but usually not too many. Usually your schedule is pretty set going in.
How do you, like, just on a personal level, achieve that feeling of, I guess, satisfaction, or of like, what does it take for you to be like, you know what, that was either a great year, that was a great show, just like the feeling of not contentness, because you can always do better, but just a feeling of like, we did good there. Like we did good this year, that show, whichever one it is.
I would just say client response. I mean, when we have people that email us and say, oh my God, I love you guys. That's the best service. I can't wait to see you next year. And we get a lot of good feedback at the shows as people are coming out of the tents. They'll say, gosh, that was awesome. It's the first time I've used you guys and I'll be back. I mean, all those things make it worth it to me, because then I know we're doing our job and we're doing what my whole goal has been. Are you going to make everybody happy all the time? No, I think we all know that. I mean, there's going to be some people that may not. My color might not work for some people. I mean, they may like our service, but maybe the color didn't work out for them, and that's okay. I mean, I have a new tagline I'm using this year that is your tan, your choice. I'm a firm believer that people should have choices. I don't like it when people feel like they're pressured that they have to use this person or that person, and then myself included. I mean, I may be the official at a show, but maybe there's some people there that their significant other or their friend does their tan, or they want to do their own tan. That's their choice. Or maybe and I've had people say to me before, I use you guys before and I really love everything, but I just don't know if the color works for me. Well, that's okay. We don't get that a lot, I will say. I mean, most people are happy with what we have. But if someone isn't, then by all means, they shouldn't have to be forced to use me or anybody else. If they would like to use us instead of somebody else, they should have that choice.
100%. Yeah. That's the great thing about business, there's choices out there. But what is your vision for the future with this business? Like, where do you see it going?
Well, quite honestly, in 10 years, I will probably definitely be retired, but my vision and my goal is to have some of my key people keep this going, because I have people that work with me now that are very committed and want to make sure that we just continue to grow. So I'll stay in the game as long as I can and as long as I enjoy it. But, I'm 69. So it's probably, I would say when I'm 79, I might not be out on the road so much, but I just kind of take it day by day, honestly. But don't see LSR going anywhere other than up, because we've got the demand, we've got everything in place that we need to have in place. And hopefully we just keep growing, and the key people that I have with me will keep that going. And I have family. I have family that's involved with the business as well. So, always somebody to pass the torch to when the time comes.
Certainly. That's pretty exciting. So, what advice would you have and you said you kind of you never saw yourself as this entrepreneur getting started, but what advice would you have for entrepreneurs and for people who are getting into business themselves?
I think my best advice would be to do your research, learn everything you can about whatever the business is that you want to start, and love it. I mean, I don't think, some entrepreneurs, they grow a business and they sell it, then they start another project. And people have asked me before, have you ever thought about that? And I'm like, no, because this is what I enjoy. I like the competitors. I like this. So I think regardless of what you're trying to do, have a passion for it. I don't think that anybody can really be that successful, in my opinion, if you don't love what you do and if you don't have a personal vested interest and, commitment to it. And that's what I did. I just wanted to keep being better. And like I said, I never really sat down and wrote out a business plan. I'm probably very unorthodox with that. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, really, and just kept doing what I did and just kept trying to do better and learn. Don't ever think you know it all. I think that's another big piece of advice, because you're never going to know it all. And if you think you do, it's probably time to get out, because especially with what we do, it's evolving. Every industry evolves. I mean, just look at our world. Everything changes, and you have to be willing to make changes. You have to be willing and able to pivot at times and adjust and just go with it. I mean, you can't think that nothing ever stays the same forever. And that's a big thing I've learned. And you just have to be able to accept change and roll with it and adapt.
Yeah. Adaptability. I think that is such a big one for whatever it is, whether that's bodybuilding, whether that's within your business, your education, just being able to be like, oh, well, that's not the way that I thought it was going to be. Instead of quitting, instead of, crying about it, doing something else, making, like you said, a pivot and figuring out, okay, well, if my gym's closed today, how can I get a workout in it? Or if I left my book at home, how can I still get this work done for school, or whatever it is? I just think, and that's where that passion also plays a role, because if you're passionate about it, you're going to find a way to do it. You're going to be like,
you make it work.
Yeah, you make it work. I think that's the biggest thing. You find a way. But
that was sort of our little saying last year, because we did have a lot of challenges with some shows. You get curveballs thrown at you, and we're like, oh, well, we'll make it work. I mean, you have your staff plan and something happens, somebody gets sick and you're down a person. Everybody just rolls their sleeves up and works a little harder and you get it done. So nothing's ever set in stone. You can predict things, but sometimes they just don't go the way you think they're going to go. And you just have to figure it out.
Yep, that's it. It was really good getting to talk tonight. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and about your business. And where can people find it?
www.liquidsunrayz.com. That's our website, at Liquid Sun Rayz on Facebook and Instagram. And our full schedule's there. And I will always have competitors will be at a show and somebody says, oh my gosh, I didn't know you guys were going to be here. And I'm like, well, on the website, you go to book a show and the whole schedule is there. We even actually have schedules up for some of our service providers that have asked us, would you put our show up? And it'll go to their link. And if you can't find a show and you are going to be at a show and you'd like to have us, sometimes you can click, find a service provider, click here, and you'll see the different states where we have people. And many times they'll be available. So we're pretty easy to find.
Yeah. And it sounds like pretty easy to find and pretty easy to also to work with. And I think that's one of the biggest things. You mentioned customer service, and it sounds like you guys have a really good thing going on and just making the experience for the customer as smooth and as positive as possible. I think that's, something that the world could use more of.
Yep. That's what we're all about. And that's what we hope that we do for everybody.